And welcome back to my channel, unless you're new here. And then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And yeah, I'm back with another live quick take. I just watched a couple movies a while ago. One was new that I had not gotten around to seeing, and then this one I was just kind of standing around my collection, looking for something. Hello, Miss C. Thank you so much for showing back up. But yeah, I was just kind of standing around my collection going, what do I watch? You would think with 2,800 Blu-rays and DVDs that I would not have a problem finding something to watch. But I just have to kind of walk the walls, walk the shelves, and something will jump out at me. And that was Flight Plan. Now, Flight Plan was released in 2005. It was directed by Robert Schwentke, Schwenike, 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 written by Peter Dowling and Billy Ray, and stars Jodie Foster, Peter Sarsgaard, and Sean Bean. Sean Bean plays the captain. Peter Sarsgaard plays the federal agent in it. What was his name? Carson, yeah. So, Flight Plan is an action thriller from 2005, like I said, and it had been so long since I had seen it that I was, I really couldn't remember what it was about. The only thing that I remembered about it, maybe I've watched too many movies, so I can forget something that I haven't seen often. But I knew it took place on a plane, and I knew it was about her missing daughter, and that's all that I could remember about it. So it was like watching it for the first time. Um, it really was, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Um, I watched Consecration Nun related horror. That was different. Yeah, it sounds like it would be different. I don't really know what to say about that. What, like movies like The Nun? I've got The Nun 1 and 2, and I've not watched either one of them yet. I've bought the Blu-rays, but I haven't watched them, like 400 or 500 movies that I have, and a whole chair of them right here for the October update. And all of my November movies have came in too. God only knows how long they'll sit before I watch them. I'm gonna die with so many movies unwatched. It's kind of scary. Uh, but yeah, um, like I said, Flight Plan was released in 2005. It's an action uh, thriller. Now, let me talk about it. Quick take on it. Um, Jodie Foster plays a mother named Kyle. I think Kyle. Maybe it's not spelled Kylie. It's spelled Kyle, but maybe they pronounce it Kylie. I can't remember, even though I just watched it. But so yeah, she plays a mother, and we see her in Berlin, and it's in the cold, cold winter, and we see her walking back home with her husband, and getting her daughter out of the house. Her daughter is very scared. She doesn't want to go outside. And this is because, you don't really know what's happened. But over the next few minutes, you learn that the reason the daughter didn't want to go outside is because her husband had just fallen off the roof a week earlier. And so that's obvious why the girl did not want to go, back out into the courtyard. So she gets her daughter into the car. She takes her, and they load the plane. Now, Kylie is a Kylie is a flight engineer. She is a navigational aviation engineer. So she helps build the engines on these planes, and she's going back to the United States with the body of her husband. She's going back to the United States to bury him in his homeland. And she's going home on one of the newer model of airplanes that she helped construct. So her and her daughter get on the planes. They have special access, so they were the first people on the plane, actually. And you see all of the crowd come in, and the plane gets full, and they take off, and they, you know, well, the daughter is, of course, very, very sad and stuff like that. So they end up going to a back row where there's some open spaces where they can lay down, and that's where she falls asleep. So Kylie falls asleep, and then her daughter falls asleep. And then she wakes up a couple hours later. I think it was about 3 hours, and her daughter is gone. Her daughter is gone. They're 30,000 feet in the air, and her daughter is gone. So she starts freaking out, and she starts looking all over the plane. She gets the crew involved. She gets the captain involved. There's a missing child on this plane, which is very strange. How does a child go missing on a plane? So she gets more and more anxious, more and more frustrated, more and more panicked. And then they start telling her that we can't find your daughter's boarding pass. We can't find any record that your daughter ever got on this plane with you. And she's very, very confused. You, as an audience member, are very, very confused because now you know that when she was, before they left, you know she was having that visual hallucination of her husband walking her back to the apartment. So you start wondering, is Jodie Foster's character, did the daughter die as well? Right? So that's what the captain and the crew start believing. They can find no record, no boarding pass, no check-in. Nobody remembers seeing the little girl, and all of this kind of stuff. And I think one of the most artful things about this movie is that you, as the audience member, actually start falling for it because you start yourself believing that the little girl wasn't real, that she is very traumatized from the death of her husband. And they even get news, the captain, of course, checks things out, calls back to Berlin, and he says that they told him the little girl was taken to the hospital and died there as well. Now, she starts doing all of the normal things you would do. Why am I on the plane with only one casket if my daughter died as well? She also can't believe that nobody saw her daughter. And I think one of the most fascinating things that this movie does to you as the viewer is that you will begin to believe that perhaps the daughter was an illusion as well. I mean, you've got all of this evidence. She almost begins to believe it herself because, like, she causes a lot of trouble on that plane trying to find her daughter. And then they end up, like, that federal marshal guy, he like puts her in handcuffs. They have a psychiatrist who happens to be on the flight who comes and talks to her. And she comes that close to convincing Jodie Foster that she is in a delusion and she didn't really have her daughter with her. However, during that time, she looks out the window. She's crying. She looks out the window while this psychiatrist is like talking to her. Earlier in the movie, we had seen the little girl make a heart on the window with her fingers. And so, as Jodie Foster is looking out this window with you, a viewer, pretty much convinced that this little girl did not exist, and Jodie Foster is like right there on the edge of believing she's crazy when she sees that heart that her daughter made with her fingers, and she touches it. And of course, the mark that she makes is a hell of a lot bigger than the finger of her daughter. So it's at that moment that both you and her realize that that little girl was not an illusion. This really, her daughter is on this plane, and she is even more convinced now. And that's when the action really gets intense. She manages to get away from him. She gets into the ship, and because she is an engineer, she is an aviation engineer. She knows all about this stuff, and that's when we learn the truth. Okay, and that is when the federal marshal goes up and talks to the captain and tells the captain that Jodie Foster is a terrorist and that she has hijacked the plane and she has rigged it to explode if she doesn't get $50 million transferred into an account. So he manages to convince the captain that that's what's going on. They do an emergency landing. Jodie Foster is she has no idea what's going on. That they've convinced the captain of this, and they show the daughter, and she is in the aviation room in the electronics deep in the plane, and she's got these C4 devices above her, and he has got the remote control to blow the plane up. So you're really like blown away that they were able to convince you almost that the little girl didn't exist either. And Jodie Foster realizes it as he gets off the plane because everybody is evacuated off the plane except for one of the stewardesses who is in league with him and her. His plan was to kill her and blow it up after he got his $50 million. She figures it out though, right as he's getting off the plane to go talk to the SWAT. And that's when she calls him out and he comes back and she's like, I figured it out. I know what's going on. Where's my daughter? And we get an action-packed confrontation between them two. She gets away from him again, big fight. She finds her daughter, has to fight with him the whole way. She ends up like managing to get her daughter out of there and blows up the plane with him on it after she had left. She emerges from the smoke in front of the captain and in front of the crew and all of the police. She emerges carrying her daughter. And all of them are just like, oh my God, her daughter was real. And the captain, of course, can back up what that marshal had told him. So it all works out, and she finally does it. Action-packed, very good, very suspenseful thriller, and I have got to upgrade this. Because that's what I've been doing lately is looking for Blu-rays, rewatching them. I mean DVDs, and rewatching them, and then going, do I love this enough to upgrade it? And I just checked. It does have a Blu-ray. So hopefully I can find it and upgrade this to Blu-ray. Fantastic story. The action is phenomenal. And like I said, one of the best parts about it is that you are actually drawn in so deeply to this story that they almost convince you, the viewer, that that little girl was not real and that Jodie Foster was crazy. And it's a fantastic movie. If you've seen it, let me know. If you haven't, you really should. It's a fantastic action packed thriller. Um, and I think you'll see how good this movie was filmed. And the acting was so good that they actually convinced the audience that the little girl was not real. But she stuck to her guns and she managed to save her daughter. It was a fantastic movie. And yeah, so that was Flight Plan from 2005. Now let me get back to Miss C here. Um, what is this thing about Miss C? It's complicated. Basically, woman goes to a convent to investigate her preacher brother's death, and it's implied the sister is the devil. What? Well, what was the name of it? Did you give the name of this film? I watched Consecration Nun. Oh, oh, is the name of the movie Consecration? Okay. I thought you were saying you watched a Consecration Nun related horror. The Consecration plot. That sounds interesting. Is she the devil, or do you not want to spoil it? Oh my goodness. But okay, I'm going to go to Facebook and message you. Um, I don't want to. You've seen how much trouble I got into for us talking about anything on here, so I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to do it anymore. Um, YouTube is, I don't know what to think of YouTube, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. So I will go and contact you and talk about the recent events. And so, yeah, folks, Flight Plan. My other movie was Silent Night. I really loved this movie. Jodie Foster was fantastic, but then again, isn't she always? And this is a really, really good movie. Let me know any thoughts you may have on the film, and I will talk to you in the next thing I do. Bye bye. Always remember, never forget, you're a very, very special person no matter what anybody tries to tell you. And I will see you when I continue my full length videos of my science space horror festival, which I got to get around to um, shortly. And I will see you then. Bye bye.